problem here. Let's try this. So we draw out the problem. So it's a metal plumb bob. It comprises of a hemisphere surmounted by a cone. So if I was to just draw the cross section of this, because it's too difficult for me anyway to draw the thing in 3 dimensions, plumb bob, piece of metal that looks a bit like that. You'd hang a string on the top and it would just hang down. So it's like a cone with a hemisphere on the bottom. Okay? Draw it as best you can. You know, if you can't draw in 3 dimensions, just give a cross section like that. It's a cone on top of a hemisphere. The diameter of the hemisphere and the cone are each 4 centimeters. So in other words, if I looked at the top view of this thing, then I'd see a circle with this apex of the cone there. And so the diameter of that is 4 centimeters. So the cone rests directly on top of this hemisphere. The total length of the cone is 5 centimeters. Of the plumb bob, actually, rather, is 5 centimeters. I've got to find its volume. So the first thing I'm going to do, having drawn it out, is to find out what are the formulas for the cone and for hemisphere. Well, immediately I've got in my mind that I'm going to work out what the volume of the cone is and the volume of the hemisphere is and add them together. So I might set out the problem as follows. I might say, okay, volume of plumb bob equals volume of cone plus volume of hemisphere. And in your assignment, a verbal and written rather plan of what you're going to do might well be a good way to do it. Don't just whack straight into the maths and expect me to understand what you're trying to do. I need an explanation of what you're going to do to do the problem, because the likelihood is you'll find different ways to do these things, so I need to know what your way is. And that's as good a way as any. Just write down in a couple of sentences how you're going to approach the problem. So, okay, now I know you're going to try and find the volume of the cone, the volume of the hemisphere, and add them together. So I'm then looking for where you do that. So, right, what comes next? Volume of hemisphere. So I'm going to do it in 2 parts. Here's the first bit. What's the formula for the volume of a hemisphere? Well, I know the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. That's the volume for a sphere. So a hemisphere will be half that. So I'm going to find the volume of the whole sphere and then divide it by 2, and I will end up with the volume of the hemisphere. So all I need to know is the radius. I know the radius. The radius equals, that's given to me. Well, the diameter is 4 centimeters, so the radius 2 centimeters. So I could plug that in and end up with the volume of the hemisphere. The difficult one is the volume of the cone. So what's the formula for the volume of a cone? Well, the volume of a cone is 1/3 of the area of the base, so that's pi r squared, times the height. So I know the radius, that's 2 centimeters. The only difficult bit is the height of the cone. If you look back at the diagram, I know the full height, but I don't know the height of the cone. But what can I do? How does that diagram help me to work it out? I know the diameter is 4, so I know this distance across here, from here to here, there to there is 4 centimetres. I want this height from here to here, the height of the cone. What do I do? No, it's easier than that. What is this underneath here? It's a hemisphere. So, from this point to here must be what? Which is, right, that's the key. I know that distance, the radius of this thing is half the diameter, which is 2. So if that's 2 and the whole length is 5, this must be 3. Okay? So by drawing it and thinking my way through, I can work out that actually the height of the cone is 3. So this distance from here to here is 3 centimetres, and that's the height of the cone. So now I know that the height is 3 centimetres. So now I can plug those numbers in and find the volume of the cone and then add them together to get the volume of the total thing. I won't finish it off, you can finish it off, but I wanted to point out to you before we finish today how I would want you to set it out. So let's just quickly recap. If you're going to show me how you find the volume of a shape like that, I want to see some sort of plan of action and then clearly set out that plan. So that's what I'm going to do, find the volume of the cone and the volume of the hemisphere and add them together. So there I've calculated the volume of the hemisphere, volume of the cone, and then finally I was going to add them together. Okay?